All right, welcome back. This is the assignments for Friday, March 27th. We're close to the weekend, and that's exciting. We want to start today with spelling, so make sure you have your spelling packet in front of you. I want you to turn to page 126. Today we're going to do pages 126 and 127. You don't need to send these to me. On Monday, we'll go over the answers together. So today you need to do them and then just hold on to your spelling packet. So on page 126, this is what we always do in class. You're going to use a word from the word bank to complete each sentence. Each word is used one time. Take your time, write neatly, and make sure you spell it correctly. Remember, if you don't know an answer, go ahead and do the rest of them, and then through that process of elimination, you can go back and figure out what the right answer is for the one you didn't originally know. And remember, this is a good practice at the end of the year when you take your achievement test. Sometimes you may have questions that you don't know the answer to. You go ahead and do everything else and then come back to that one. So you're going to do that on page 126. And then on page 127, you're going to do this whole page. You've got your word bank. Each word is used once. For numbers 1 through 4, you're going to write a synonym. Remember, that means that it means the same. For numbers 5 through 8, you're going to write an antonym. Remember, that means the opposite. And then for numbers 9 through 12, you're going to finish the category by supplying the right word. So you're going to pause the video, do pages 126 and 127 of your spelling packet. You don't need to send them to me. You hold on to them and we'll go over them together on Monday. So go ahead and pause the video, complete your spelling, and then we will continue. Okay, today you're supposed to have your book selected for your next book report. The next book report is our last one for this year, and it is oral. I'm looking forward to seeing those. So this is your choice. You can have any kind of book, fiction or nonfiction. It needs to have at least 100 pages, and it needs to be a book that you've never read before. So you should find in your email an attachment. Actually, it's a Google document. You'll go on the Google document, and you will put your name, the name of your book, the author, and how many pages it has. That's all you need to do is type your name, the name of the book, the author, and the number of pages that it has. Everybody in the class will be using this Google document, and make sure that you don't change anybody else's information, okay? I know that sounds funny to do, but that's not funny to that person. So make sure you only type what you need to do. So today, before you're finished, make sure you take that Google document and put your book information in there. And then you may go ahead and start reading. And next week, we'll talk about the requirements for the book report. But what you need to focus on right now is actually reading the book. That reminds me, keep up with your reading. March is almost over. We'll be finished with the Book It program. You want to make sure you read so that you can get your free Pizza Hut coupon. And then, of course, we're going to see who qualifies for the big lunch when we come back from this corona pandemic. So remember to keep reading. Don't forget about Read to Succeed. We've got a big celebration coming up in May for everybody who reads. The goal is to read a minimum of 1,000 minutes. And then remember, we've got special prizes for whoever reads the most, first, second, and third places. Get out your grammar book and turn to page 235. Yesterday, you took a quiz on adjectives. Today, we're going to look at another part of speech, and that is the adverb. Adjectives modify or describe nouns and pronouns. Adverbs modify or describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. And what we're going to focus on is adverbs that describe verbs. So if you look at the top of page 235, it says adverbs describe verbs and answer the questions how, when, or where. You may want to underline or highlight those words, how, when, or where. Adverbs often end in ly, but they don't have to end in ly. So a lot of them do, but you'll see that sometimes we have adverbs that don't end in ly. Adverbs may come before or after the verb. In a diagram, an adverb is written below the verb it describes. Let's look at the examples they give you in the book. Hurricanes without moisture quickly weaken. The verb is weaken. How do they weaken? Quickly. Quickly is the adverb. So notice with the diagram, hurricanes is the subject. It's capitalized because it's capitalized in the sentence. Weaken is the verb. Quickly is the adverb, and so it's diagrammed under the verb weaken. Look at the next example. The storm hit the island today. Storm is the subject, hit is the verb. When did it hit? Today. So today is an adverb. In this diagram, you have storm is the subject, hit is the verb. Island is the direct object because you say the storm hit what? The island. So that's the direct object. So notice that you've got those three words up on the top line. Storm, hit, and island. And then we have the adjective the storm. So that goes underneath storm. You capitalize the because it's capitalized in the sentence. When did it hit? Today. That's the adverb. That goes under the verb hit. And then the island. So you write the under island. It's not capitalized this time because that the is not capitalized in the sentence. Look at the green box. Adverbs that mean no are negative. Common negative adverbs include not, never, nowhere, and rarely. Normally, these are found in the middle of a verb phrase, and we have to remember that they're not verbs, they're adverbs, okay? So no, not, never, nowhere, rarely are always adverbs. Let's look at the examples. Rainbows are never found in the sky after a snowstorm. Are found is the verb, not or never found, just are found. Never is the adverb because it tells when rainbows are found. Rainbows aren't found in the sky after a snowstorm. This time we have the contraction aren't. The verb phrase is still are found, and the N apostrophe T is actually an adverb. That seems kind of weird, but that's how it goes. So always remember that. Look at guided practice. It says write each adverb on the blank beside the question it answers. So over to the right, we have some choices. Northward, there, slowly, again, correctly, and yesterday. So let's look at this. First of all, two of those words answer the question, how? Which two words answer the question, how? That's right. Slowly and correctly. So go ahead and write those words beside that question, how. Slowly, correctly. Which two words answer the question, where? Write those words down. Which two answer the question, when? Write those words down. To answer the question where, you should have written northward and there. To answer the question when, you should have written again and yesterday. Let's look at the next set of directions. Underline the adverb in each sentence. Draw an arrow to the verb the adverb describes. Look at number 4. Hurricane researchers nervously gathered storm data. Researchers is the subject. The verb is gathered. How did they gather? That's right, nervously. So underline nervously and then draw an arrow to gathered. Look at number 5. Hurricanes frequently produce inland tornadoes. The subject is hurricanes. The verb is produce. When do they produce? That's right, frequently. So underline frequently and draw an arrow to produce. Please remember that adverbs most of the time come before or after the verb, but not always. Sometimes they're in the middle of the verb phrase. Sometimes they show up somewhere else in the sentence. The way you know it's an adverb is it's going to modify or describe the verb, and it's going to answer the questions how, when, or where. Look at number 6. You don't have to worry about labeling the sentence pattern. We just want to make sure that we can diagram this sentence. Hurricanes rapidly move tropical heat. You should be able to diagram that entire sentence. Do that now in your book, and I'm going to put it on the board. Okay, hurricanes is the subject. It should be capitalized because it's capitalized in the sentence. Move is the action verb. Heat is the direct object. Notice the difference in these two lines. We are going to put a straight line all the way through to dissect the subject and the verb. But between the verb and the direct object, we just do a straight line that stops at this line. So remember that. Hurricanes move. How do they move? Rapidly. So hurricanes move heat rapidly, and then what type of heat? Tropical. So we have diagrammed that whole sentence. Hurricanes rapidly move tropical heat. If you have a question about that, you feel free to either email me or you can call me. And again, in case you didn't hold on to my number, it's 919-618-7601. So you call me anytime when you need help with your assignments. Let's get a little more practice. If you'll turn over to page 236. Up at the top, it says, underline the adverb in each sentence. Draw an arrow to the verb the adverb describes. We're going to do these together. Number 1, the plane did not leave the ground before the winds increased. The subject is plane. What's the verb? Did leave. Not did not leave, just did leave. And then the adverb would be what? Not. That's exactly right. Remember, no, not, and never are always adverbs. So you're going to draw a line under not and then draw an arrow to show that it's modifying leave. Number 2, a pilot gathers weather information daily. What's the subject? Pilot. What's the verb? Gathers. When does the pilot gather? Not information, that's what he gathers. When does he gather it? Daily. So daily is the adverb. You're going to underline daily and then draw an arrow to gathers. Now please note that daily comes all the way at the end of the sentence. So most of the time the adverb comes right before or right after the verb, but not always. Sometimes it comes right in the middle if it's like no or not. Sometimes it comes at the end. It could be anywhere in the sentence. Look at number 3. Hurricane winds always exceed 74 miles per hour. What's the subject? Not hurricane, winds. Winds is the subject. Hurricane is an adjective telling what kind of winds. What is the verb? Exceed. Good job. When do the winds exceed? Always. Always is the adverb. Underline always. Draw an arrow to exceed. Number 4. The storm sometimes cause flooding. The subject is storms. What's the verb? Not sometimes, you can't sometimes. Calls. Calls is the verb. Storms calls. When do they cause? Sometimes. Sometimes is the adverb. So you're going to underline sometimes and draw an arrow to cause. Number 5. Hurricanes commonly happen from August to October. The subject is hurricane. What's the verb? Happen. How do they happen? Commonly. So commonly is the adverb. Happen is the verb. Look at number 6 and 7. You don't have to identify the sentence patterns. You just need to diagram these sentences. So diagram number 6 and 7 on your own, and I'm going to do them on the board. Okay, number 6, that hurricane completely destroyed the crop. Hurricane is the subject, destroyed is the verb, crop is the direct object. And then we have the adjective that. It's capitalized because it's capitalized in the sentence. That hurricane completely destroyed the crop. If you didn't get that correct, go ahead and make corrections now, because when we have a test at the end of this chapter, you're going to need to know how to diagram a sentence similar to this. Let's look at number 7. Those fierce winds headed westward yesterday. Winds is the subject, the verb is headed. And then we have some adjectives. Those, fierce, they both modify winds. Those is capitalized. They headed westward. That's an adverb. When did they head westward? Yesterday. Those are both adverbs. Now, some of you may be like me, and you may struggle with writing these words going down like that. That's okay. You just do the best you can. It is a little complicated to write on those lines that go underneath. Okay? If you got number 6 and 7 completely right, pat yourself on the back. This is big stuff if you can diagram a complete sentence. There are students in our high school that still struggle with diagramming. So if you got both of those right, that's awesome. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to keep trying. Keep your grammar book out, and what I want you to do is turn back to page 105. 105. We're working on our book that we're putting together to be published. And so the poem that we're going to work on today is the Diamante. The word diamante means covered with diamonds. And when you look at a Diamante poem, typically they look like they're kind of in the shape of a diamond. So if you look at the very top of the page, we have 2 examples of Diamante. Let's look at the first one. Spring, misty, pink, thawing, warming, budding, flowers, rainbows, crickets, bonfires, changing, cooling, falling, colorful, hazy, fall. Notice the first line is spring and the very last line is fall. Those are two opposite seasons, right? And that's what a diamante is. There's not a title for diamante, but you always look at the first word on that line, and there's just one word, and then there's one word on the last line, and they're opposites. And what the writer does is he slowly transitions from that first word to the last. Look at the next example. Ant, busy, tiny, crawling, working, carrying, crumbs, dirt, mountaintops, talons, rising, soaring, crying, immense, watchful, eagle. If you look at the description underneath, we're not going to read this whole thing, but go to the second paragraph. A diamante contrasts two nouns that are opposites, such as summer and winter, sun and moon, heat and cold. The diamante on the left shows the contrast between the seasons of spring and fall. The one on the right contrasts an insect and a bird that are opposite in many ways. A diamante often, but not always, contrasts objects from nature. It may also contrast opposite ideas, such as joy and sorrow. Notice that each line of a diamante contains a certain type of word. Each line also contains a certain number of words. So just like with the limerick, we had to have 5 lines and there was a certain pattern, that's how it is with the diamante. So we have to follow the pattern. So if you look at the very bottom of the page, you'll notice that in line 1, you have a noun. Line 2 is 2 adjectives describing that noun. Line 3 is 3 ing words that describe that first noun. And then in line 4, you have 4 nouns. The first 2 describe line 1, the last 2 describe line 7. Line 5 is 3 action words ending in ing that describe line 7. Line 6 is 2 adjectives that describe line 7, and then line 7 is the noun. So for example, you've got spring is line 1, fall is line 7. Misty and pink describe spring, thawing, warming, budding, they all end in ing, they describe spring. Line 4, flowers and rainbows are 2 nouns that describe spring. Crickets and bonfires are 2 lines that describe fall. And then in line 5, you've got your 3 words ending in ing that describe fall, changing, cooling, falling. In line 6, 2 adjectives that describe fall, colorful, hazy. And then line 7 is fall. So now turn over to page 107. Today, you're going to write your own diamante, and you can follow the example that they give you up at the top. So if you'll notice, they show you in blue how you're supposed to do it. Line 1 is a noun, line 2 is 2 adjectives, etc. And then they give you another example. Let's look at the example on page 107. Hate, wicked, sinful, spitting, hitting, nailing, robe, thorny, cross, blood, forgiving, dying, saving, perfect, great, love. That's an example that a 5th grader named Thomas, he wrote that diamante. As you do this, make sure you follow the guidelines on the bottom of page 107, and you're going to actually write a diamante. If you're having trouble coming up with a topic, if you'll look at page 106, in the middle, they give you some ideas. You could contrast your grandmother and your grandfather, or the ocean and the desert, the roof with the basement, fear with courage, teacher and student, earth and space, hat and shoe, sadness and happiness, parent and child, North Pole and equator, mouse and elephant, rebellion and obedience, or you may have another topic in mind. So you can fill in the little blocks on page 107 with your first word and your second word, your adjectives, your ing action words, and your nouns, and then you'll draft your Diamante following the pattern at the bottom of page 107. I do want you to send this to me because all of them that follow the directions will go in the book that we're going to have published, plus you will receive a grade for this. So again, let me remind you for today, you're going to take the Google document and put in the title of your book, the author of the book, and how many pages it has. And then you're also going to do spelling, pages 126 and 127, but you don't have to send those to me. We'll go over those on Monday. And then I also want you to send me this Diamante. If you have any questions, give me a call. Have a great weekend, and I'll look forward to reaching back out to you next week. Thank you.